Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Bio Launch. Today we are going to learn about pedigree analysis. So what do you mean by pedigree analysis? It is a chart. Okay, it contains about 3 generations or maximum 4 generations in a family. It takes only a particular branch and then what type of genetic disease runs in the family, that alone is taken into consideration. Not only a genetic disease, it can also take a particular trait. So let's see what is pedigree analysis. It is a chart that represents a family tree. So I'll be showing you how it looks like. And the next one says that it displays members of a family affected by a genetic disease. So, genetic disease, you all know, will run in a family and this will be inherited one generation after the another. So, we are going to see how this genetic disease is passed on from one to another generation. Not only this, a particular trait, not only a genetic disease, it can be a trait. For example, if I mean genetic disease, I mean to say that it can be a muscular dystrophy, or when I say a particular trait, you can talk about ability to roll the tongue or a widow peak or anything that is characteristically found in a particular generation and how it is inherited from one generation to another. So this is what overall we talk about pedigree analysis. Now, why do we have to have a pedigree analysis? Why should we do this? Because controlled crosses cannot be performed in humans like pea plants. Now, we all know how Mendel performed this experiment, the experiments that brought out the 3 major laws of inheritance. But the same cannot be applied in humans because we cannot, perform controlled crosses. Point number 1 is that the lifespan is too long in humans. You cannot do such a kind of crosses, and controlled crosses is not possible. So we have to analyze how it runs in the family and we have to find out the past of the particular family. So then only we will be able to arrive at a conclusion. Now, what are the advantages? The first one is that any specific trait that runs in the family will be able to have an idea. Next one, how susceptible you are in a family that has a previous history of a genetic disease. And third one, any disease that runs in a family, you will be able to analyze, and anyone marrying into the family, how best we could prevent this expression of a gene that can cause a particular genetic disease. So for all these, we need to do a process that is called as pedigree analysis. Let's get into the details now. Now, this is how a pedigree chart will look like. Can you see here? These are represented as, generations. Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3 and Generation 4. So if you see the first generation, you see that there is a female and a male, and then they give birth to 2 young girls, and then when they grow up they marry, one of them marries, and then the next generation you could see, and then this person's grandson is getting married and he is giving birth to a male child. So this is how a pedigree chart will look like. Now let us go into the details of how we analyze and what are the basic symbols that we use in pedigree analysis. Look at the first one. All females are represented by a circle. This is how a female is represented, and a male is represented by means of a square. And each individual in a generation is represented by a Roman numeral, and then a digit is assigned to it. For example, if you see here, this is generation 1, this is generation 2 and 3 and 4. Maximum we will try to stop with generation 3. Generation 4 is somewhat very rare in the kind of pedigree analysis we do in CBSE grade 12. So in this I have given you extra one, that is generation 4 too. So look at this. I want you to find out third generation first individual. So you have to go to Roman numeral 3, and this is the first individual who is a female. For example, if I ask you to go to second generation individual number 2, this is individual number 2. So each individual has got 2 places assigned to it. One is which generation they belong to, 1, 2, 3 or 4, and what is the individual in order of birth. Firstborn, this is secondborn. Firstborn, secondborn. Like that it goes for this particular parent. Now, if I draw a circle and I shade it, then the person is affected. When you draw a square and shade it, then fully shade it, it is affected male. What do you mean by affected here? The person is affected by the disease. Now, if you go to this particular term called founding parents, these are the founding parents here. Generation 1, a male and a female, together they start a family. So these 2 individuals are called as the founding parents. Next one, founding family. So in a family you should have a father, mother, and then also you should add this particular generation number 2, where you have firstborn a female, secondborn also a female. So now together, if we take these 2 together, we call them as founding family. The rest will be the family tree. Coming to the next one, you have a circle here and a square. So, and I have drawn a line between the 2. This means that these 2 are married. If the same line, if I am going to draw one more line over here, it is called as consanguineous marriage. So what do you mean by consanguineous? People marrying among close relatives. Now why we study this? Because there might be some genetic disorders that is running in the family, and if people tend to get married amongst their own relatives, these kinds of genes that were suppressed originally in the family might become expressed in the next generation if they are going to get married amongst close relatives. So the close relative marriage is somewhat dangerous when we analyze. As and when we analyze lot of pedigree charts, you will be able to understand. Now, when I draw a line between the male and female, and I am going to give you the next generation, that means this is called as the founding family. So this whole group that we see here, a father, a mother, and 2 daughters. So this is one generation that's been represented here. Next one is identical twins. This is how identical twins are represented, and this is how non-identical twins are represented. And when I say carriers, this is how carriers are. When we draw just lines or just half, you have to color it. So now coming to the next one, how do you represent a carrier of a disease? So this is how carriers are represented, where you just shade it half or just draw lines in the center, then they become the carriers for a male and a female. Then if you draw a square like this, then it means the sex is unspecified. And this symbol represents a stillborn or the baby is aborted. And for a person who is deceased in the family, we can just mention it by drawing a line across the male or the female symbol. This means that the person is deceased. So these are the symbols that we are going to use in the entire pedigree analysis, beyond which there are no more such symbols. So with this, we will move on to the basics of how to draw a pedigree chart.